Man, all y'all really liked the sideways tote storage rack, but I kept getting this request of, hey, can you do a breakdown of the process, the materials, and step-by-step instructions? Absolutely, let's do it. Before I get into it, I need to add a little caveat. This rack is custom made for one specific type of tote. That is the project source tote that you can find at Lowe's. Broken down into its individual parts, this rack is actually pretty simple in terms of design and construction. The first part are the 4 vertical pieces, which are 8 feet or 96 inches long. And then you have your 4 horizontal pieces that are 31 inches long. And for a 6 storage rack, you've got 12 pieces at 21 inches long. Then you got 16 of your long screws. I recommend 2.5 to 3 inch long screws, and then 48 shorter screws for the shelf supports. I recommend 1 5/8 inch screws. With all the pieces cut out, it's just a matter of gluing and screwing them all together. A quick note about glue. My personal woodworking style is that I use glue in everything. Now, you're gonna see people that say glue isn't necessary, it's a waste, it's not needed. But for me personally, whenever I build something, I want it to last as long as possible, and that means glue on every joint. The first thing you wanna make is 2 rectangles with your vertical pieces and your horizontal pieces. Start by butting the inside edge of your vertical piece to the end of your horizontal piece. Then you're going to take 2 of your long screws and put them about 3/4 of an inch down from the top edge to try to hit the middle of that horizontal board. A quick tip for when you're putting screws near the end of a board, always drill a pilot hole first. That way, when you do get to the point where you're drilling the screw into the board, it'll be less likely to split because it's so close to the edge. By the way, I like star head screws. For me, they work the best because quite frankly, Phillips head screws are the worst. Once you have 2 sets of your vertical pieces attached to your horizontal pieces, the last step is just to add all the shelf supports. Be sure to get the end of your shelf support piece even with the edge of your vertical support piece, and then add 2 of your shorter screws. To make the spacing on these racks as even as possible and give you enough clearance on each of the edges and in between each of the tubs as possible, I designed these to have a 9.5 inch gap from the bottom to the first support shelf, and then a 12 inch gap between each support shelf after that. Some people will say that spacers aren't necessary, that you can just measure and mark and do it that way, but for me personally, I like to make it easy on myself, and so I use spacers. After placing 6 support pieces on either side, you should be left with about a 2.5 inch gap near the top. Once everything is assembled, all you need to do is add totes and you're done. And so that's all the details on how to build one of these racks. They're great because they don't require a lot of materials, they're quick and easy to assemble, not to mention they're a really good and effective way to organize smaller spaces.